Hello and welcome to my first One Fight Night preview of the year. Today we are talking about One Fight Night 18. This is of course kicking off the year for One Championship and well, it is certainly an interesting one to talk about as the first one of the year. Before we dive into this preview, thank you if you are a returning viewer for checking out, my previous videos and showing support and stuff like that. Love it. We'll definitely be posting more One content on this channel this year because of how well some of it is done. So that is all a credit to you if you've checked out this channel before, and if you haven't, hit subscribe because, like I just said, more One content coming very soon. Anyway, One Fight Night 18 is a big deal for me personally because if you're not based in the UK, this won't mean anything to you. But if you are based in the UK, then you know that One Championship signed a deal with Sky Sports, right? That is incredible. A huge platform for One Championship to be on, a huge platform for kickboxing, Muay Thai and submission grappling. Like, obviously a big platform for MMA in the first place, for Sky Sports to have MMA, fantastic. But for Sky Sports to have Muay Thai, kickboxing and submission grappling is crazy. So that's really great to see. So obviously this event is the first part of that deal, the first event that kicks off that deal. So kind of, was excited to see how this was going to look. And of course, it goes without saying, really, One Championship probably won't be thrilled that this is the first event of that new deal, because things haven't really worked out in their favour as of late regarding this card. So let's dive straight into that, right? So the original main event for this One Fight Night 18 on January 13th was Superlek, the flyweight kickboxing world champion, defending his title against Elias Mahmoudi. Super excited to see Superlek back. I will watch that man fight literally anybody. So, and a title defense against Mahmoudi, I was like, yeah, that's cool. Good main event. Superlek fighting Lumpini. What do you want? That's great. And of course, Elias Mahmoudi ended up pulling out of that fight. I think that it was probably likely that they would have found a different replacement opponent for Superlek, who I'm sure would have taken the fight regardless of who it was against. And in the end, even though they were left without a main event, this didn't work out too badly because, of course, coming up at the end of the month, you've got 1165, the promotion returning to Japan, and it was supposed to be the huge super fight between Rodtang and the debuting Takeru, and now it is Superlek versus Takeru, which I think a lot of people, when that fight was put together between Rodtang and Takeru, everyone was going, oh, I wonder how long it'll be until Superlek ends up stepping in to save the day, and, we have our answer now. And so this main event falling apart put One in a difficult position, but also allowed them to salvage that huge Japan card. And that, I think, is a huge thing to keep in mind when I talk about this card. And when you look at this card, there is a huge event coming up in just a few weeks that has got some absolutely fantastic matchups. I'm actually just going to pull up that card right now because I didn't do that beforehand. I mean, Superlek versus Takeru is one of the best matchups of the year. You, of course, have Cade Rutolo up against Tommy Langacker in a rematch there. Fantastic matchup. One of the better grappling matchups that they've done. I know that they've done it before, so I can't give them too much credit. But, Langacker, of course, went away and won an IBJJF World Championship. So that rematch, I think, it has more stakes to it than the first time they met. You've got Shinya Aoki and Sage Northcutt, Gary Tonin versus Martin Nguyen. Great featherweight contest, that one. Itsuki Harata back in action against Ayuka Miura. Danny Kingyang taking on Yuya Wakamatsu. Bokang Masanye taking on Keito Yamakita. Hiroba Minowa versus Gustavo Ballart, which at the moment opens the card, at least on One Championship's bout order on their website. Like, that card is fantastic. That is one of the best cards One have put together in some time. You knew it was going to be big because they're coming back to Japan. You've got Takeru in the main event, right? Like, it was always going to be a big deal. So I do think you have to take that into account. I think that, this is one of those unfortunate circumstances where One's schedule of having these fight night events every month means that sometimes the quality isn't as consistent as you might hope. We can point to the final event of last year as a great example of this, where you had One Fight Night 17, an all-striking card that was okay. It delivered some good fights, but then you also had an all-striking card coming up later on in the same month, One Friday Fights 46, which was maybe the best striking card the promotion has ever put together, right? 3 World Championship contests, and, you had Nongo on there against Nico Carrillo, you had Sexan on there as well, like, Not to mention the fantastic undercard that event had with it. So these things happen, right? And the Superlek thing, unfortunate, kind of worked out as well. I think that even if Elias Mahmoudi hadn't pulled out of his fight, I think they still would have moved Superlek into that main event against Takeru. That is a much bigger deal, a much bigger fight to salvage than keeping together this main event for One Fight Night 18. The other big loss that we had on this card was we originally had a fight that I was really, really excited for. The return of Liam the Hitman Harrison after his long layoff. Coming back, and he was going to be welcoming the former bantamweight champion John Lineker into his first Muay Thai contest. I was so excited for this fight. It had banger written all over it. It was going to be the one that I was going to just wax lyrical about on this preview, and of course we don't have it. It was announced, and I don't know if one ever put it out public that this fight wasn't happening, but if you follow Liam Harrison on social media, then you know that his injuries have kind of kept him from coming back a little bit later than he had hoped, and now it looks like he's talking about retirement and a fight with Saxan and stuff like that, which I think is all perfectly fair enough. And I'm disappointed that we don't get this John Lineker fight, but was it the right fight for Liam Harrison to come back to? Probably not. Was it a banger? Yeah, but... So those two things out the way meant that for a good while, it wasn't really looking great for this card, and we only had a bunch of fights announced the week of the card. I am recording this on the day that it goes up on YouTube, so we only had the card graphic come out like not that long ago at the time of recording this video, and a lot of the fights were added just before that, like 24 hours before that. So a lot of these are late notice fights. And this won't be as in-depth a preview as some of my previous ones, a little bit like One Fight Night 17. I'm still going to give you, if you're going to tune into this card, if you're thinking about it, weighing it up, here are the reasons why you should, right? That is the idea behind these videos, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the fighters on this card. But straight up front, the two best fights on this card are no longer happening. You have an absolutely stacked card coming up at 1165, which I guess I'm going to preview each fight fairly in depth because it's that good a card. That's going to definitely be, I think, the longest preview I've ever done on this channel. So look forward to that. But let's talk about this card. We'll start at the main event. Straight up, the fact that you have got a main event between two MMA guys that are coming off of losses is not, the best advertisement is what I meant to say, but it got lost in the mix somewhere. It's thrown me off. Anyway, this main event, One Fight Night 18. You've got Shamil Gasanov taking on, I'm going to butcher his name, so I really apologise, but if you've watched this channel before and you're going to watch it in the future, you just have to get used to it. I apologise, right? It is difficult. Shamil Gasanov taking on Hotaik? I don't know. I do apologise. Anyway, featherweight contest. Shamil Gasanov, of course, ranked in the top 5. Like I said, both guys coming off of losses. Shamil coming off of that submission loss to Gary Tonon, who, of course, if he'd beaten Tonon is now going to be fighting the former champion Martin Nguyen in just a few weeks. So that was a really, really big matchup for the division. Shamil needs to bounce back, and he's got an opponent that I think he can definitely do that against, an opponent that is 1-1 in one championship, but, has fought some decent opposition. Of course, his last loss to Abdulayev, who I believe is now also in the top 5 rankings at featherweight. So, no shame in that loss, although it did happen in like 44 seconds, I believe it was, but he had a hand injury, whatever. The fact of the matter is, this main event, my favourite thing about this main event, being brutally honest, is just that we're seeing the MMA divisions be active in one championship. That was something that I spoke about loads last year. One's MMA divisions were in a strange place last year, so to see multiple MMA contests on this card, to see an MMA main event, even if I know that there was 2 striking contests that probably would have been the main event had they not fallen off this card, but still, we've got an MMA contest in the main event, and it does have some stakes behind it because, Shamil having a top 5 ranking. in terms of those kind of additions that we get with like the Friday fights cards, where you check out the card every week and go, oh, that person's on, I'm definitely going to tune into them. You've got a few of those guys on there, you know, Sua Black back in action, and Rung Rui as well. Those guys, fantastic to watch. So if you're a striking fan, definitely check those guys out. You're not going to want to miss those two Muay Thai contests in the bantamweight and lightweight divisions. You have also got, if you're a striking fan, lightweight Muay Thai action, Liam Nolan back in action. He, of course, again, as I mentioned at the start of this video, with this being the start of the Sky Sports deal in the UK, he will be the first UK athlete to kind of benefit from that, I suppose. I'm actually going to be, at the time of recording this video, I'm chatting to Liam in just a couple of hours, so you can check that interview out. By the time you're watching this video, it'll probably be out, if not soon, over on the Violent Money TV channel, so go check that out. That's where most of my interviews go up. And yeah, I'll be chatting to Liam Nolan, so you can check that out. He's going to be taking on Aliev. He, of course, Nolan, I'm on about, was supposed to fight Sinton McClinby in a rematch at the end of last year in a fight that didn't end up happening. I was gutted about that one falling off, but I'm excited to see Liam back out there and doing his thing and hopefully making a little bit of an impact over there on Sky Sports. So exciting stuff. And I'm going to be honest, there's not a whole lot else to point to. The bantamweight matchup between Kwon Il and, name butchering incoming, Shinchaktga Zoltsetseg? There's no way I'm saying that right. But Kwon Il coming off of a couple of good finishes, actually. So that, again, bantamweight feels like one of the only the only divisions that was active throughout last year, and this is another example of that. You're looking at, you know, if he gets another finish, you're probably looking at him being the next title contender in the bantamweight division, which is, you know, again, we're talking about reasons to tune in. You could have a new bantamweight title challenger on your hands. He, of course, did lose to Fabricio Andrade back in June of last year, but back-to-back finishes since then over Mark Abelardo and Artem Balak. So a third consecutive finish, I think it would be hard to deny him at this stage, and there isn't a whole lot of other competition, I think, right now for that number one title contender spot in the bantamweight division. So that one is definitely worth tuning in. That one is quite high up on the card, so, you know, as it tends to be, right, the matchups with the most stakes you can find up there. Speaking of Mark Abelardo, you have got him in action, opening up the card again. Another bantamweight contest. You'd love to see it. 3 bantamweight fights on this card. In MMA, I'm talking about. And you've got Babylat Isaev, who's going to be returning light heavyweight kickboxing contest against Yuri Farsas. I think that's how you say his name. And he came through the Road to One tournament, so he'll be looking to make a big impact. Just good to see there being active fighters in these divisions, because when you look at some of the champions, you're like, I don't know who they're going to fight next. Fights like this hopefully will lead to there being a little bit more contention at the top of these divisions instead of it just being who is available. Not that any of the challengers in recent times haven't been up to scratch, you know, but, you know, I want there to be debate. I want there to be, you know, number one contenders matchups and stuff like that, right? And you need active divisions for all of that. That just about wraps it up for One Fight Night 18. Like I said, it was a strange one, but that is purely, I think, because we've had, you know, 2 fights that were fantastic fall off this card, and this huge 1165 card, which I will definitely be back to preview, and I'll probably do some other videos on it because it is just that big of a card. Thank you for checking out this video. Enjoy the fights. If you do tune in, hit subscribe for more One content in the near future, and I will see you all very soon.